How many games will the Houston Texans win in 2024? What's going on, Texans fans? It's Emmanuel Jones here, back at with another NFL record prediction. And this time, we'll be doing our record prediction for the Houston Texans for a 2024 NFL season. So, I'm gonna give you my game analysis and see which games I think the Texans will win and see which games I think the Texans will lose. So before I give you my recommendation for the Houston Texans for a 2024 NFL season, don't forget to put a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to my channel for more options, and don't forget to comment down in your opinion below to see who you think, which games you think the Texans will win, and see how good the Texans will go for. Do you think they're going to make the playoffs again? Do you think they're going to win division? Do you think they're going to make the Super Bowl, or do you think they're going to miss out on the playoffs? Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Okay, so week one, they have to play on the road against the Colts. Obviously, the Colts are kind of a dome team. I think the Colts are going to be a physical team this year. They have like a really good offensive line, a great defensive line. Um, yeah, but you know, the Colts, are probably pretty much an improved team. I think that this can go either way as well. So I think the Texans will win because I feel like Anthony Richardson is going to be a little rusty coming off an injury. Um, the Texans quarterback, Texans got a better quarterback, better coaching staff. I think they're a more complete team overall. And Anthony Richardson didn't really have his best rookie season. He didn't have a good rookie season because he got injured. So I think the Texans, match up well with the Colts really good. They have the pass rush to get out there. Anthony Richardson to make life difficult on him. They have a secondary that can really match up against the Colts receivers. So yeah, and I feel like their offense is gonna have a big game, especially the Colts. The back half of their defense isn't great. Like their secondary is totally not great. So I think the Texans can at least throw the ball at him, with CJ Stroud can have a good game there. And Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, those guys are going to be a challenge, for that Colts secondary, which is going to be too much for the Colts secondary to handle. So that's why I think the Texans will win that first game, even though it's in Indy, because they beat the Colts in Indy last year. Then week two, they play against the Bears on Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be both young quarterbacks playing against each other. Now, I think this game will be super close, if the game was this game's in Houston, but if this game's in Chicago, I might lean towards the Bears. But since it's in Houston, I'm going to take the Texans because I think the Texans are the more complete team. They have the better quarterback for now. They kind of have a better coaching staff. They're at home. And, I wouldn't trust a rookie on the road, especially against a young D'Amico Ryans defense, which I think their pass rush can definitely give the Bears offense and Caleb Williams a lot of issues where they can get after him. And their secondary with their corners can match up well with the Bears receivers. So, yeah. And I don't think the Bears really have much of a pass rush to at least get after CJ Stroud. So I think the Texans offense can definitely run the ball at them, and I think they can throw at them. So yeah, I think it could be a defensive game, but I think it's going to be a high scoring game in my opinion. So I think the Texans will win this game at home. Week three, they play against the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, I got them beating the Vikings here because the Vikings, I know Minnesota is probably a tricky place to play at, but I got the Texans beating the Vikings because, Texans are a better team overall and they're just got the better quarterback. I don't know who the quarterback for the Vikings is. Is it going to be CJ Stroud or JJ McCarthy, facing against a young D'Amico Ryans defense? Now, here's the thing. The Vikings defense is not as bad as you think, but this is Jonathan Greener and Danielle Hunter revenge game because they were both on it. One was on the Texans and one was on the Vikings. So this could be a defensive battle though. But I'm not really a fan of the Vikings secondary. I don't think the Vikings secondary is that great. I don't think their corner group is that good. So I think, Stephon Diggs, this could be the Stephon Diggs revenge game because he was a Viking. I feel like Stephon Diggs and the other weapons that the Texans have on offense, I feel like their pass catchers are going to be too much for the Vikings secondary to handle. So I feel like CJ Stroud can take advantage of that. And, I don't think Minnesota has much of a pass rush to like get after CJ Stroud. So maybe they run the ball on them. CJ Stroud can have enough time where the offensive line can protect him. So yeah, I think it could be a very close game though. I mean, if Brian Flores can at least like find a way to defend CJ Stroud, I think the Vikings can definitely pull off an upset. But I think the Texans are gonna win because they're just an overall better team. The next game they gotta play against the Jaguars. Obviously, I think they'll beat the Jaguars at home this time. Now, I remember last year Houston went on the road and beat Jacksonville, and then Houston lost to them, and Jacksonville beat them in Houston. But I think the Texans are going to beat the Jags because the Texans pretty much own Jacksonville, and the Texans are at home in this game. They have the better. I think they're a better team overall, and are at home, and I think they got the better quarterback. Cause I think Trevor Lawrence could be a little bit overrated. Like who knows? I mean, Jacksonville has a good team. They have an improved defensive line, a great weapons, and all that. They have a great secondary, but I think Houston's just a better team overall. And I think their defense will show up in this game where they can defend Trevor Lawrence, get after him, and they got some corners that can man up against the Jags receivers. So yeah, I think Houston wins that game. Week 5, they play against the Buffalo Bills. This is a tricky game that can go either way, but obviously, this is going to be fun to watch. Um, Now, some people could be picking the Bills to win because of Josh Allen, but the game's in Houston. But if the game's in Buffalo, I might lean towards Buffalo. But since it's in Houston, I'm going to go Houston to win that game because this is a Stephon Diggs revenge game. And I think, the weapons are going to take advantage of the Bills' defense. I think Stroud is going to have enough time. They have a good enough pass rush that can really get after, Josh Allen, and which I think they can do that. And I feel like your corners can get sticky against an unwelcome receiving core of Buffalo because now they don't got Diggs and Gabe Davis anymore. So yeah, and especially the Texans are at home, and I think they're kind of the more complete team coming into this season. And I believe they got just more skill group on offense. Like they just got more weapons. So yeah, I think it will be close in a shootout, but I have a feeling the Texans are gonna get this win here. Then week 6 against the Patrons. Obviously, they should beat the Patrons because I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Patrons. Whether it's going to be Drake May or it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. But I wouldn't trust a rookie, especially against a D'Amico Ryan's defense. But I think the Patrons don't have a good offensive line. Their receiving core is the least talented. So maybe your secondary can get sticky against that, and their pass rush can find a way to at least like overwhelm the Patrons' offensive line. And I believe the Texans got more weapons on offense. Like I feel like they're just more explosive than the Patrons. So yeah, I know the Patrons do have a good pass rush that can really give CJ Stroud a tough time, but I think, the offensive line is going to give CJ Stroud a tough time, which I think they can block the Patrons, which I think they can do that. So yeah, and especially Texans got the overall better coaching staff, better quarterback. They're just a better team overall. So that's why I think the Texans will win this game. Week 7, they got to play against the Packers. This is a tough one. This can go either way. I could see Houston winning this game, given the fact that Stephon Diggs can be a challenge against a Packers defense that sometimes is not good against the pass, but it's gonna be a fun game to watch. But if this game was in Houston, I can lean Houston because Houston can do enough to like at least like defend Jordan Love. Now I kind of remember D'Amico Ryan's kind of did a good job defending the Packers offense in the past, but the game's in Green Bay, so I'm gonna give the Packers the win here to give the Texans their first loss of the season because Lambeau feels kind of a tricky place to play at, and it's outdoors, and you never know. It could be snowing earlier in October, late October, and it could be cold there. And I felt the Packers are pretty much a talented team, but I like to say Houston is a better team from a talent standpoint and have a better quarterback, in my opinion. But I think Green Bay, it's pretty much a great team. Like they got they got some young weapons on offense that are really good, like Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Devontae Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Crowley. They got a lot of weapons on offense that can really throw the ball at you and that can really like explode the Texans secondary. I think Jordan Love can do enough to make explosive plays, especially if they have a strong offensive line that can really control your pass rush. And I think they can put your defense and your corners in a bad position. And I think, Green Bay has a defense. They have a great pass rush, which I think they can get after CJ Stroud. They have the corners, to man up against Stephon Diggs and the guys. So I think the Packers can definitely win this game by their defense, but I think they can win this game by a touchdown. I mean, if Jordan Love does not struggle. But I think as long as they can control the game, keep CJ Stroud off the field, I think the Packers find a way to win that game. So I like the Packers here in that game. Then week 8, I got them losing. Texans losing again, so I got them splitting with the Colts to let them lose in 2 straight games. I got them losing back to back now. Most people are going to say the Texans are probably going to sweep the Colts, but I don't think it's going to happen because I think the Colts are going to split with the Texans because last year, because I felt the Colts could be a sneaky team this year. They could be a team that they might make the playoffs or they could definitely miss it. But I feel like Anthony Richardson's going to have a good game here like last year because I kind of remember last year when they played against the Texans in Houston, like the Colts really ran the ball on them really well. They moved the ball on them really well, and Anthony Richardson kind of had a good game, and the Texans didn't really do much on both sides of the ball. So even though the game's in Houston, I think the Colts are going to win this game on the road to split the season series. So yeah. Then week 9, I got to play the Jets on Halloween. This is on a short week. Obviously, this is going to be a fun game to watch. Now, lots of people are picking the Texans to win because the Texans are a better team than the Jets, which I respect that. But you know what? I feel like this game right here is going to be close and competitive because it's going to be Aaron Rodgers versus CJ Stroud and not Zach Wilson versus CJ Stroud. Now, last year, the Jets really did win that game. That's when the Jets defense really found a way to like at least defend CJ Stroud and all that, and they really shut down their entire offense. I can definitely see them doing the same thing. I think it's going to be a little bit of a defensive game, but given that the fact is in New York, I mean, the game's in Houston, I can lean Houston, but given that the fact the game's in New York on a Thursday night, I'm going to lean towards the Jets to win this game because the reason why I'm leaning towards the Jets to win this game is because I think the Jets match up well with the Texans really well. They have a really good pass rush, like that can really get after CJ Stroud, and they can stop the run really well. Like they'll find a way to slow down Joe Mixon in the running game. They have a good secondary led by Sauce Gardner who can man up against Stephon Diggs because he done it. Now he did a great. I mean, Sauce did a really good job covering Diggs in the past, which he did. Which I think the Jets defense is going to win in this game, especially they have a strong offensive line that can really control the Texans pass rush, and I think Garrett Wilson will have a good game here, and I feel like Aaron Rodgers can do that and take advantage of the Texans' young secondary. So I think Aaron Rodgers has a good game. I think they'll do a good job controlling the clock and keeping CJ Stroud off the sidelines. So yeah, but I feel like the only way if the Texans win this game is that if they control the game and keep Rodgers off the field, and if the defense can find a way to defend Aaron Rodgers, I think they can. In the Jets offense, I think the Texans win this game. But I think it's going to be an ugly game where I think the Jets defense will win them this game. So yeah, I like the Jets here. So basically, I have the Texans losing 3 straight games, which that's kind of bold and it's kind of tough for them. But week 10 they play against the Lions. I was gonna say they bounce back. I'm gonna say they bounce back and win this game against the Lions because I don't see them losing 4 straight games in a row. Like I think the Texans, I think the Lions are a better team than the Texans, but I think the Texans, they're at home in this game, and I have a feeling that the Lions did improve their defense, a little bit. Like they can stop the run, and their secondary did improve. Like they can stop the pass okay. Their offense, they can run the ball on you, they can throw on you. But I think that because my issue with the Lions is they can't really defend the pass okay. So I feel like Stephon Diggs and it's gonna be a challenge, and a lot of these guys will be a challenge too. So yeah, and I think the Texans offensive line can do enough to control their pass rush, and I think the pass rush of Houston is going to give the Lions offensive line and Jared Goff a lot of issues. I just think the defense can do a good job defending Jared Goff, force him to throw the ball in the middle of the field, and I feel like your corners can do a good job man up against St. Brown and Sam Laporta. So yeah, I think the Texans can definitely defense can win this game, and I think they can win by a touchdown on offense. So yeah, and I just think Stroud's a better quarterback than Jared Goff in my opinion. So yeah, and they're at home in this game. But I think if they find a way to control the game to keep Jared Goff on the sidelines, I think Texans find a way to win that game. So I like the Texans here to pull this one out. Um, Week 11, this is on a Monday night game. They have play against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. This is a tricky game that can go either way. I want to lean towards Dallas because most people are picking Dallas to win because they're at home and they can match up well with the Texans really good. But the Cowboys can definitely give the Texans a lot of issues, especially, when they have a really good pass rush. They can get after you. They got good corners in the second that can get after you. And, they may not be able to run the ball like they used to do, but they can throw on you, though. Which, yeah, I could pick Dallas, but I'm going to roll with the Texans here because I think the Texans are just a more complete team and have the better quarterback. And I just think, the Texans can do enough to run the ball on the Cowboys because, the Cowboys defense is soft against the run at times. And, they're soft against the pass at times. Maybe they can throw on them a little bit. And I think their O-line can do enough to, control Dallas's pass rush. And I think they'll do enough to control the game to keep Dak on the sideline. So, yeah. And they pretty much have a really good defensive line. Especially Cowboys got new pieces on their offensive line. So I think the Cowboys defensive line is probably going to give Dak a lot of issues, which I think they can at least blitz him and force him to throw the ball in the middle of the field or on the sidelines and all that. And I think their corners can match up well with the Cowboys receivers. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Dallas. Especially, even though it's in Dallas, I think the Texans are just a better team overall. So that's why I think the Texans will win. Then week 12, they play against the Titans. They should beat the Titans at home because, the Titans, they got a new coach. They're going with some learning curves. They have a new coach, and we don't know what Will Levis is going to look like. But they did improve their roster a little bit. They improved their secondary, the back half of their defense. They improved their receiving core and all that. So, yeah, I understand. But Texans are just overall better team, better quarterback, better coaching staff. And especially they're at home in this game. Yeah, that's pretty much why. Then week 13, they play against Jaguars in Jacksonville. I'm going to say Jaguars win this game to split the season series because they're at home. And the coaches are familiar with each other and teams aren't familiar with each other. And Jacksonville's probably going to have more to play for because they're probably going to be a team that could definitely make the playoffs, or they could barely miss it. Because last year they missed the playoffs. So yeah, I think the game's in Jacksonville, and I think Trevor Lawrence will have a big game here. So yeah, I feel like the Jaguars can do enough to throw the ball on the Texans. They can run a little bit, and I think their defense is just going to give give CJ Stroud a lot of issues. Especially their secondary is very strong now. They can man up against Stephon Diggs and other guys. So I think Jacksonville finds a way to win that game. Then they get a bye, so basically they're 9-4 before the bye week. Then after the bye week, they're going to have a week to prepare and all that. So they're going to have time to rest because of the bye week. Then they have to play against the Dolphins at home. Obviously, this game right here is going to be fun. It can go either way. Some people could be picking the Dolphins to win, but this should be an offensive game. It should be a fun game to watch. But I'm leaning Houston to win this game because they're coming off a bye week to get extra time to prepare. And, the Dolphins are going to have a lot of questions because, I still think their offensive line is a little suspect. Their defense is going to have major questions because, they lost like three of their best players on defense, like Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Jerome Baker. They got a new defensive coordinator, which I don't know how's that going to work. Their secondary is fine, but not great. They got some weapons on offense, that can really give the Texans defense some issues. But I think the Texans overall have a better defense than the Dolphins. Like, I just think they're the better team overall, better quarterback. They're at home. And I just think, the defense of Houston is going to give the Dolphins offense and Tua a lot of fits. And I think their secondary of Houston can man up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I feel like as long as they cover these guys, I think they can win. I think the Texans can win this game. Which, yeah, I think it could be a shootout though, because I feel like the Texans are going to do enough to control the game, keep Tua off the field. So yeah, and I don't think Miami has much of a pass rush to get after, get after CJ Stroud or slow down Joe Mixon. So I feel like he can have a good game to run over that Dolphins defense. So yeah, I think it will be close, but I think the Texans find a way to pull this one off. Next game they got to play. Now they got two tough games they have to play. Week 16 and 17. They have to play the Chiefs on a Saturday and the Ravens on Christmas Day. This is kind of tough because I went back and forth in these games because some people are picking the Texans to beat the Chiefs. Some people are picking the Texans to beat the Ravens. Some people are picking the Chiefs to beat the Texans. Some people are picking the Ravens to beat the Texans. You know what? I'm just going to leave these alone for just right now. And then against the Titans, unless, this is I'm going to say if the Texans rest their starters, I'm probably going to say they're going to lose to the Titans. But I'm going to say the Texans are going to play their starters in the last game. So I'm just going to give the Texans a win here to sweep the season series. I don't think Tennessee's going to have much to play for because I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. And Tennessee and Houston is fighting for a top seed in the AFC because they're trying to fight for a wild card spot. And overall, they just got the better team overall, better quarterback, better coaching staff. That's pretty much why. Okay, right now they're 11-4-2. So against these games, I think they're gonna at least win one and lose one. I think they're gonna at least lose one of these games, or win one of these games against the Chiefs or Texans. But I don't think they're gonna lose both. I don't think they're gonna win both. But I think they're gonna lose one of them. I'm gonna say that they beat. I'm gonna say they beat the Chiefs, even though the game's in Arrowhead. And I'm going to say they lose to the Ravens. Now, the reason why I got them beating the Chiefs, I know it's an Arrowhead, but the reason why I got them beating the Chiefs is because, I feel like Stephon Diggs will be a problem without L'Jarius Sneed. The Chiefs won't be able to play as much man-to-man coverage like they used to. I don't think they will. But their defense is still good, especially their pass rush, but it's not great. Maybe they can get CJ Stroud and the Texans offense issues, but I feel like Stephon Diggs will be a problem. Now, other thing is, I think the defense can do enough to like at least like give Mahomes a tough time, like get after him. They're even though he's good against the blitz, and then their secondary can do enough to man up against the Chiefs receiving core. So yeah, I think the Texans can definitely win that game, especially in a shootout. So yeah, I'm giving the Texans a win here, and I'm giving them a loss against the Ravens on Christmas Day because I think the Ravens. I think they're a better team overall and have the better coaching staff, and I think the Ravens, defense can at least like can do a good job, like showing up and like defending CJ Stroud, like make him uncomfortable in the pocket, force him to throw the ball in the middle of the field, and plus like so first like that, force them to run the ball. And their pass rush can do enough to get after, CJ Stroud. And then their corners can do enough to man up against Stephon Diggs and the other weapons they have. So yeah, and I feel like, Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers, I think there's going to be a problem against their young secondary of Houston. So, yeah. I mean, I think that's a game I think the Texans can definitely win at home, but I think the Ravens are going to win because I think the Ravens have a slightly edge here, and I think they're a better team overall. So, yeah. So, basically, I have the Texans at 12-5, which that's pretty good. 4-2 in division, 8-4 in the conference, 6-2 at home, 6-3 away. I mean, that's pretty good. But I can definitely see them, at least winning 10 or 11 games. Like, I can see that happening. So, yeah. So, yeah, like, I can see them, but I don't think they're that I don't think they're going to go 10-7. I think they'll win at least 11, 12, 13 games, which that's my range. But maybe they go 14-3 at best, but I think they're more like a 10, 11, 12 win team. Maybe 13 at best, but and 9 at worst. But when you look at the teams that play in their schedule, it's pretty tough because it's not really tough because they have to play Jacksonville twice, the Bills, the Packers, the Colts twice, the Jets, the Lions, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. Which this is a pretty hard schedule. So like I can definitely see them at least like losing games like the Bills, the Vikings, the Lions, even the Cowboys or the Chiefs or the Dolphins, or I can see them winning games like the Ravens or the Jets or things like that. I can see them at least winning some of these games. So I think 12-5 sounds about right for Houston. So yeah, I think Houston, should be back in the playoffs once again. Like I said, they did make lots of improvements. Like I like these Stephon Diggs and I like this Stephon Diggs trade. I like the Joe Mixon addition. The offensive line is pretty solid, and especially the receiving core is pretty good. I like the defensive line by adding D'Amico Autry and Daniil Hunter on there to go along with Will Levis. So I think the defensive line is pretty strong. The linebacking position is pretty good with Aziz Al-Shir. The secondary is pretty strong as well, and they pretty got a good coaching staff. And Bobby Sawyer bringing him back was a huge for them. So yeah, so I think 12-5 is good enough for the Texans. Maybe it's good enough to win the division, but I'm probably gonna say they win the division once again. So let me know in the comments section below what you think about the Texans. It's Mail Jones from Big Fan. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later in the next video. Peace.